Prayer for manifestation of abundance. A couple of years ago, I wrote down scriptures about wealth and abundance and spoke them back to God. I pasted these yellow papers on my wardrobe so that I could see them every single day. And I can testify that the abundance and riches I have prayed for has manifested and will continually manifest. If you want to get the attention of God faster, speak His word and promises back to Him and meditate on His word. And when He gives you an idea, action it. So here is the prayer backed up by scriptures to manifest your abundance and prosperity. Lord, I thank you for the gift of life. Thank you for being my provider. Your word says in Deuteronomy 28 verse 11, the Lord will grant you abundant prosperity. I pray for this abundant prosperity. I want to be that good person who has wealth to leave to their grandchildren, because your word in Proverbs 13 verse 22 says, a good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children. I also don't want to always be living hand to mouth or constantly in debt, because your word in Deuteronomy 28 verse 12 says, you will lend to many nations, but will borrow from none. Your word in Proverbs 10 verse 22 says, the blessing of the Lord brings wealth without painful toil for it. And Proverbs 23 verse 4 says, do not overwork to be rich because of your own understanding. Cease. I want to experience this wealth without painful toil for it. Because I know when we speak our desires, you honor them. For your word in Proverbs 18 verse 21 says, the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. I also want to be that person who is recognized by the great. For your word in Proverbs 22 verse 29 says, do you see a man who excels in his work? He will stand before kings. He will not stand before unknown men. For your word in Jeremiah 29 verse 11 says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. I still want to see this promised table that you prepare for me in the presence of my enemies. I want my cup to overflow. For Psalms 23 verse 5 says, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. May I be like Isaac in Genesis 26 verse 12. Isaac planted crops in that land, and in the same year reaped 100-fold, because the Lord blessed him. The man became rich, and his wealth continued to grow until he became very wealthy. May I become rich until I become very wealthy. I also want to be one of the people who honor you with my wealth when you bless me. As your word says in Proverbs chapter 3 verse 9 to 10, honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine. Also grant me a patient heart, so that James chapter 1 verse 4, which says, But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. Can be practical to me. And Lord, I know that when we commit our plans to you, you establish them. For Proverbs 16 verse 3 says, commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. And I know you will supply all my needs, according to your word in Philippians chapter 4 verse 19. And I know I will never lack no good thing, because your word in Psalms 34 verse 10 says, the lions may grow weak and hungry, but those who seek the Lord lack nothing good. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. Amen.